Alright, so we're going into game 3 with our mono blue tempo deck in the constructed league. We have 1 win and 1 loss. We lost to a control deck. We just basically died to Niv Mizzet, which was good enough. I think it was both games that happened. And in this game that we won was against a black-green mid-range deck that like to use the graveyard as a resource. Like I was saying earlier, those are better matchups. I think it's close to 50-50 with me maybe having a little bit of edge because of the resiliency of my creatures, having all these protection spells and Siren Storm Tamer and such. But if they draw enough removal, it can be very bad for us. But we are 1-1, so let's see if we can win another one. Now that mono green or the green black matchup was almost given to this guy's name is Master Bait. That's awesome. It was almost given to us because he didn't draw enough interaction to actually deal with what we were doing. But like had he seen an extra deadweight or like a moment of craving or something, that game could have gone very differently. So I go first, and my hand is 1 land, but I do have the Dive Down Curious Obsession 1-drop combo, and then 1 land brings us into Wizard's Retort. We have to keep a hand like this. It is risky. Make no mistake, these hands aren't like... I wish that the Exclusion Mage was a land, but that's not the world we live in right now, and we're just hoping our opponent isn't playing a ton of interaction in this matchup, or at least they're like a control deck that doesn't have interaction until later turns. Could be a mirror. This is outstanding for us. We drew the land, so that's what we call getting lucky as hell. I think in games like this, I don't want to speak too soon, but we normally win games where we can just do this. Especially if this is the mirror and he's also on mono blue tempo. He's not going to be able to out-tempo what I have here. Exclusion Mage and Trickster are going to put him in the ground pretty quickly if he is playing the mono blue tempo deck. That's another island. And that's a Discovery, so this is not mono blue tempo. But yeah, when we play this next land, we're going to have 2 ways to protect our Siren Storm Tamer. We're going to be drawing way too many cards for him to keep up. And normally when you keep 1-landers, you don't get this lucky, but we have drawn lands every turn, which is just great. Although this next card could be a land, then I would want to stop drawing lands. Alright, so hopefully off the top we don't get another land. But there's no reason for us to keep playing anything because we're just going to be interacting for the next few turns with whatever it is our opponent's trying to do. And if it's nothing, then we play our Trickster out. So we didn't really want to draw that land, but we can't complain too much. Our hand has been very good to us so far. Let's go action. There's another Curious Obsession. Because I have Wizard's Retort and Dive Down, there's no reason for me to not just double down on the fact that I have Siren Storm Tamer already bloused. I'm just going to start drawing more cards. I don't think there's any reasonable way for him to actually deal with this Storm Tamer. If it's something like a Ravenous Chupacabra, we're just going to counter it. Even though we can dive down, we just want to get the body out of the way and keep on with our clock the way we have it. What are we going to do, opponent? Our opponent is thinking pretty hard, probably about how the hell they don't lose this game. I don't know if there's a way. Notion Rain's fine because that brings them down to a 2-turn clock for us. And if they're on the Ritual of Suit plan, they're going to be sorely disappointed when they go to cast it. Yeah, that's just game. That was another one of those that was given to us, although the deck is designed in a way where it just wants to punish any opponent who stumbles even a little bit. I'm going to call that a control deck, even though I didn't see very much of it, and I'm going to pretend like I know what it is, and bring in all of my counter magic. They were a blue-black base control deck, so Mystic Archaeologist, and this is a card that's going to come out of my sideboard the second I have all the cards that I need. But it could be good, although in a matchup like that, I'm imagining he's on like maybe Disinformation Campaign or something. Maybe Mystic Archaeologist is actually pretty good. I'm not really sure. If I draw him late, he can be very, very good. So I'm going to bring him in just because he is in the sideboard. I'll want to use it. Cards that aren't as good. Night Veil Sprite just isn't quite enough action. I don't know what creatures this guy plays. I'm incentivized to take out the Exclusion Mages probably, just because they're a little bit clunky. I don't know what creatures he has. If he's playing something like, what what's the name of that card? Thief of Sanity. The Exclusion Mage could be pretty good. Although I didn't see very many creatures, so I'm just going to play to what I know. Get rid of the Essence Scatters for now. And the Exclusion Mages will probably just end up being clunky more often than not. I'd rather have the other 2-power guy that's a 2-drop, because he's the other cut that I would consider making. I think it's just got to be these Exclusion Mages, though. Yeah, we'll run the deck like that. Alright, Masturbate, what do we got? And like I said, those 1-landers, they're very risky to keep, but more times than not, you're rewarded pretty heavily for keeping them. They need to have interaction on 2, otherwise you're going to draw enough cards where you'll be able to make your land drops using Curious Obsession. Speaking of Curious Obsession in a good hand, I've got Storm Tamer, Enabling Wizard's Retort, Curious Obsession, and a Finisher. This is a very good hand. We'd love a dive down, but you can't have it every time. Our opponent's on tap land, we are on draw land. Let's hopefully stop drawing lands relatively soon. Now next turn is a big question. Do we Curious Obsess our Siren Storm Tamer if it survives the turn? And the answer is probably not, especially since it's probably going bye-bye at this point. But he's either going to take Curious Obsession or Wizard's Retort. I can't imagine a world where he takes the Djinn. If he does, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Yeah, there goes the Obsession. So now we're forced to stay on Wizard's Retort, but the reason we wouldn't have played it the next turn is just because of Disinformation Campaign being, honestly, a pretty stellar card. So we'll just get in. Right now we're on the plan of get to 4 mana, potentially 5 depending on how it goes. Cast a Tempest Djinn and protect it. So no, we can't let that happen at all. Just because that's our one way to protect our Tempest Djinn at this point. Alright, another Retort is great news for us. We're just going to get in and we'll end it. So against these control decks, they're going to have enough interaction to play with your board, which is why we bring in all of our interaction. We're not planning to kill them quite as quickly as we were able to game 1, but we're still able to kill them in a relatively quick fashion. Now, we're probably just going to ship the turn again. So he's got a Vraska's Contempt. And this is definitely weird, because if I expose my Djinn and he kills that, I'm completely out of gas. But if I let this Vraska's Contempt go through, the 2 life isn't that big a deal, but I would prefer not to let him gain any life if I could avoid it. So I could just sack the Storm Tamer to its ability and then cast the Djinn, hoping he doesn't have any interaction. And that honestly might be the best play, because if I just sack if I Wizard's Retort it and pass the turn, he's free to do anything and not have to interact with me at all. So ultimately, I think I will sack it to its ability. I'm not going to let him get in there and gain 2 life. And then we're going to cast the Djinn, and there's a chance that it just dies, and that would be unfortunate. But we can't play back for too long. We could have just left open the Wizard's Retort, but I don't know how good that is. If he interacts with the Djinn, at least we do have the Wizard's Retort for to replace after he is dwindling in cards a little bit. Cast down. Discovery, huh? So there's a good chance he finds the interaction for the Djinn. Then we really want to be drawing like a Trickster or something, just to keep this Wizard's Retort cheap. There's the Murder. So he's down to 2 cards. Let's get a Creature. Creature's good. We'll play the Marauder, and we'll try to ride this for a little bit. If he goes to kill it, we might just let it happen, because we can't afford for him to play like a Stellar Win condition. We don't have very many outs this late in the game to like, or he can just play it now, and I will Wizard's Retort it. So you're drawing a lot of land. What have we seen here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 lands. I mean, it's a flood, but it's not. It's pretty bad, actually. We will expose the island in our hand. There's no reason to sandbag 2 of them, just because we want Tempest Djinn to have the best clock it can if we do draw it. There's the Ravenous Chupacabra. The only good thing about this is our opponent is pretty well ran out of resources for the time being. And there's a Storm Tamer. We're going to play the Storm Tamer and sandbag this island. I don't know that our opponent is going to play around it, but the little bit of a chance we have for our opponent to actually play around something in our hand is pretty well worthwhile. And if we draw another land, we'll just play this one that will stop us from being behind on land drops for Jin for the most part. Our clock's going to be pretty close to the same thing. So there's a Curious Obsession, and that's really hard for me. I think we save it to try to draw another creature, Curious Obsess that, and protect it with a Siren Storm Tamer. Yeah. There's the Moment of Craving. We're just going to activate its ability. Just so he doesn't gain 2 life. So we're obviously in a pretty bad spot here. If we can draw like Protection Spell into Jin, we could be in a fine spot. But we really need our deck to help us out. I'd even take a Charter Course at this point just to get some card selection going. Luckily, our opponent is not presenting anything close to a worthwhile clock. At this point, we are going to play out this last land. Because we have 2 cards in hand, so our opponent has no clue what we have at all. I don't know what they put us on, but they probably don't think that we have a Curious Obsession, which is good news. So they're going to end. I am going to just flash in this Trickster and tap down the Ravenous Chupacabra. And if they don't interact with it, depending on what we draw, we may just blast at the Merfolk Trickster and try to draw some cards. So we drew that. So now we're definitely going to blast up the Trickster, having negate. Alright, let's see. He doesn't appear to have any action, so let's hope for juice. Mistcloak Herald. So the Eldest Reborn is the reason we want to cast this Mistcloak Herald. If he does have a copy of Ritual of Suit, that's unfortunate. But the 1 damage, we just can't afford to play around just having the 1 extra damage on board. Because Eldest Reborn, we really want to sack this Mistcloak Herald too. And keep getting in. I would like this Provost to be down on my bowl. Much better. Blink of an eye. Bouncing the Trickster. Yeah, that makes sense. Get rid of that Curious Obsession. We are just going to flash in the Trickster and tap down the Chupacabra. Alright, we'll take the damage, I suppose. Maybe it was better to... I don't know. I don't think it mattered. It might matter if he plays like a Doom Whisper. Maybe I was supposed to just flash it in and tap down the Chupacabra. It's not like he doesn't know that I have it, so I could have just saved. I took 2 damage for no reason, essentially. And we'll just end the turn here, not let him know that I have an island. Maybe he'll waste like a discard spell on it or something. Nightvale Predator, that's an interesting card. I didn't think I'd be seeing that today. So we are just drawing lands. 9 turn clock, baby. Let's go. And we only want to sandbag 1 land because, again, if we find the Jin, we want it to be as good as it can be. And at this point, at 8 lands, it matches his life total, so that's pretty good. Here, maybe we just want to block the Chupacabra. No, it depends on what he plays. I don't have interaction, but maybe I want him to think that I do. I think I'm going to not block it on the off chance he doesn't cast something, and then it takes the clock down quite a bit. I think he's just trying to race me here, and that's exactly what he's trying to do. With that in mind, we're going to just try to race right back. There's no point in playing a land. We're basically at the critical mass of lands that we would ever need to do any given thing on any of these turns. If we draw another one, sure, we'll play the next land, but it's all pretty irrelevant. We flooded out pretty bad this game, unfortunately. Alright, so he's going to get in, and now... Ooh. Well... Maybe. Do you have interaction? Masturbate. I imagine you have to. So that's a Vraska's Contempt. We will just concede to that. That does kill us. Our run wasn't too bad that game. I feel like we put up a pretty good fight, but in the end, we just drew way too many lands. So in this case, I don't know why I didn't bring this in. The dive down should have come in. We're not supposed to have a third or even a fourth dive down, but since we have access to it, we are going to play it. On the play, I think some things change. We definitely don't like Mystic Archaeologist as much because I think it's better at playing from behind. Maybe. I mean, it shouldn't be in the sideboard to begin with. Syncopate's at an even larger premium than it was in the first place. Do we want to play Night Veil Sprite? And I think the answer is probably. We can't drop any 1-drops because that just completely cuts down on what our nut hand could be. Warkite Marauder just gets in more damage though. It's hard. It's definitely hard. I think we will cut a single negate for a single Night Veil Sprite just to balance out the creature to spell ratio a little bit better, but it could be way incorrect there. We'll see. Alright, let's see if we can't snipe this third game. Masturbate. Man, my name sucks. I should have gotten that name first. Okay. Dive down, Siren Storm Tamer, 2 pieces of interaction. Tempest Djinn. This is 1 copy of Curious Obsession away from being a perfect hand. So we're going to keep it. It could obviously develop poorly, but we'll see. Our opponent's thinking pretty strongly about their hand, or they're bluffing me. So there's always the argument that maybe I hold the Storm Tamer for a turn to dive it down, but I just think that most of the time I get punished for doing that. He's going to deadweight it here, it looks like. But that's fine. We have another Storm Tamer. I can't think of anything we'd want to negate, so we're just going to play out the second one. End our turn there. Alright, so we really want to see a third land, to be quite honest. Or a Curious Obsession would be fine. Third land, we will go with it. I'm just going to play it. Get in for 1. Have all this spicy interaction. Hopefully it ends up mattering. For this counter magic to be relevant, I need to draw into a little bit more juice. At this point, I would even be fine drawing a few more lands. So he wants to cast down my Siren Storm Tamer, which is weird. Protecting it puts me off of having all of my counter magic. I suppose I could just dive it down, but I really want that for my Tempest Djinn, so we're just going to let that resolve. Notion Rain. This is a spell that we want to negate. Even though it takes life from them, which is obviously good, it sets them up a little bit too well. And maybe if they're hunting for lands, it's obviously much better. We're just going to play the Tempest Djinn, hoping he doesn't like play Plaguecrafter or something. We'll dive down the Tempest Djinn with whatever he tries to target it with, and then hopefully Disdainful Stroke gets something like a Ravenous Chupacabra. We can start to generate some serious tempo advantage that way. So that's a Vraska's Contempt, so luckily we've got the dive down. Hopefully this Disdainful Stroke takes us the extra mile. We've got another dive down, so we're actually in a pretty stellar spot here. Let's see if we can keep interacting enough to actually clock him with this Tempest Djinn. We'd love to see another land to put him down on a 3-turn clock. Disdainful Stroke is a necessity against this card. It is nice. Nice. Alright, let's go 5th land. Would honestly be fine. Curious Obsession's also great. That's just another way to take it down to a 3-turn clock. But I like the Curious Obsession better for obvious reasons. More card advantage is always good. Okay, so do we want to sandbag this land for any reason? It doesn't take our interaction up, but ultimately... Well, if he wants to make us discard a card with like something like Disinformation Campaign, maybe we just hold the land. Hopefully he just like tries to use some large spell to deal with this. Deadweight, -2/-2. It changes our clock, but we can't afford to actually interact with the deadweight. Alright. So, we will play our land and get in there. He did take our clock back by a whole turn, though. That's outstanding. There's no reason for us to not play this Warcake Marauder now. What are we going to do, opponent? Where's that Scorpion? There's always a Scorpion that comes up in this playmat, or whatever you want to call it. So we could just counter the Sinister Sabotage, but I don't think that we're rewarded very much for that. Already having the Negate and Dive Down to deal with anything he tries to do to our Tempest Djinn. There he is. You click the Scorpion, he runs away. I think they need to do more stuff like that. So, we're just going to dive down here. It is nice. You know, I get that a nice. Nice. So, there's... this one's interesting. We're going to attack. Just because I don't think that it changes our clock. There's a chance we're supposed to play the island out first, just in case we draw like a 1-drop and he's able to interact. But I've got the negate, so I feel pretty safe. We will just drop our land here and end the turn. He needs 2 ways to deal with this Djinn that are both... No, the game's over. Is this just a concession? I think it is. Dream Eater. Oh boy. Well, that's not very good for us. Perhaps we were supposed to... I mean, if we played our... I think we already played land for turn, but if we didn't, we play land, Curious Obsess it. It gets out of the Dream Eater's range, but maybe we should have played around that a little bit harder. You know, you have to block the Djinn. You don't really have a choice. Yeah. So those are going to trade. We did not play land. So that would have been... We would have won that turn. That's something to think about. Although, for some reason, I wasn't thinking very hard about that. So now we're in a spot where we could lose again. Yikes. We have to negate the search for Azcanta. At this point, we just want another Djinn. Another Djinn would be just great. Or a sneaky Merfolk Trickster. Mistcloak Herald does the job. Against everything except for the Eldest Reborn. So that result, we just won the game, thankfully. We got a little lucky there. I don't know that we were supposed to play around what he did there. Although he was on 6 mana and he didn't concede. So maybe that was just the better way to do it. I think that may be the case. So, alright, sorry dude. We've got the Curious Obsession. Say nice. Come on. You've been so nice all game. Good game. Okie dokie. So we got a little lucky that one. We had a little bit of a blunder. There was a line of play that let us have our guy blocked, our Djinn, and had him kill the Dream Eater without dying himself. Although, one thing I wasn't thinking about is he could have just bounced the Djinn, and then I would have lost my Curious Obsession. He decided not to do that, probably because he couldn't afford for me to cast the Djinn. Again, he needed it to die right there. So I think we did pretty well. Blazing Hope, I don't care about that. I'll take the 50 coins, though. Wait, what? Destroy exile target creature power greater than or equal to your life total. That's a weird card. But yeah, we got that one. So we're at 2-1 now, and we will be going into the next game, like, right about...